Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1396B, and today's date is October 9th, 2017, and the title of the episode is The Cabal Just Hit a Brick Wall. Here's what happened. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, we've been following Obamacare for quite a while, and I know the corporate media is trying to make it seem like, all of a sudden Obamacare is not going to be doing well because they're trying to get rid of it. But we know that Obamacare, the exchanges, they've been all going bankrupt. People are not joining up. Premiums have been skyrocketing. And this is why we track these things, so they can't fool us into thinking that it's just happening now. We've been watching all the exchanges, and half of them have gone bankrupt. There are a lot more that are on the verge of going bankrupt. And people just cannot afford this insurance. It is not affordable. Even though they named the bill the Affordable Care Act, it's far from it. And then we've learned that when Obama was in office, he was manipulating the accounting methods. He was using funds from different areas to fund Obamacare to make it look a lot better than it really is. And we come to find out that it's not as great as they told us. And we know it wasn't that great because why? Congress. The government officials never took it. They kept their own. If it was so great, they would have taken it. So over the weekend, it was announced that Trump was going to ditch restrictions that ban people from buying health insurance across state lines. Now, he's going to allow competition and not force you to buy from the state monopoly. This is going to really basically destroy Obamacare right now. It's going to expedite the death of Obamacare. And of course, this is probably what the game is all about. It's to get rid of it because we can see that Congress didn't vote to get rid of it. They decided to keep it, let those people pay a penalty, give the American population terrible, terrible health coverage. Now, of course, the argument is, well, the government is paying for all these people, and these people can get health insurance. Well, that's a small select group. What about all the other groups? I mean, you can't create something that only helps a certain group of individuals. If you're going to do something for the people, you have to look at the entire picture. And you have to say, okay, so the people who couldn't get insurance, who can't afford insurance, and the government, the taxpayers, I should say, they're paying for the insurance. That group loves it. The middle class, where they might have their own business, or their employer is not paying for it, they can't afford it. And that group is gigantic. Millions and millions and millions of people. And what we're seeing here is we need something that works for the people. And the only way that we'll find something that works for the people is if the government officials, I'm talking about the people in Congress, the president, and the rest, take it once it's established. If they don't take it, you know right off the bat, it is not good for the people whatsoever, because if they want to keep their own, you know right there and then that theirs is better than what they're trying to sell you. We see that Google has all of a sudden discovered questionable Russian ads. And they said these ads were running during the election, and they're saying that there was $100,000 worth of questionable ads. And of course, all of a sudden, they're finding all this information out. And we know what is really going on here. They're just trying to find anything to show that Russia was pushing the agenda to manipulate the elections. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way by running these ads that they convinced anyone of who to vote for. Because people saw what was really going on. People understood what was really going on. And they voted the way they wanted to vote. The way they wanted to vote. And even if you look at this, we know the whole election was completely manipulated because Clinton, she got the popular vote. So if you really look at this, the popular vote went to Clinton. These ads did nothing. It was the Electoral College that allowed Trump to become president. And again, the people really don't have a say because the Electoral College kind of went the opposite direction of what the popular vote said. So we could see right now, this is meaningless of what they're saying here. Now, we know that Catalonia, they're going to be trying to separate themselves from Spain. France right now is saying they will not recognize Catalonia if it unilaterally declares independence. And they're saying they're not going to recognize it. We see that big banks, they're moving their headquarters out of Catalonia right now. Spain's third largest bank has said it will move its headquarters from Catalonia, and it's going to be moving to different areas inside of Spain. We see there's about 3 different banks that are going to be doing this, and they're getting prepared for what is coming. This is what it looks like. Now, Martin Armstrong is out there and saying, listen, you see the way the Spanish government reacted when Catalonia wanted to have a referendum, and you saw how they came down and they forced people forced them away from the referendum, and they came down hard on the people. He says when things in the world, the global economy, starts to break down and the people aren't doing what the government says, you're going to see how the government reacts. They're going to come down on the people. He says this is a blueprint of how all governments will act during stressful situations. They're not going to work with the people. They're going to come down hard on the people if you don't do what they say. Now remember, governments, they're supposed to be elected. Well, they are elected. Well, in some cases, some are manipulated. But they're supposed to be working for the people. They're supposed to be part of the people. They're not supposed to be going against the people. But you can see at this point, our governments today around the world, well, they're preparing, and they've always been preparing for when the economy comes down, because they know that there's going to be certain situations, especially in big cities, where people are going to riot, people are going to be very upset, and things are going to get out of hand. And this is why you see them ramping up on weapons, on water cannons, and having the police look like military. We see German Chancellor Angela Merkel admitted last year that she had lost control of the German refugee crisis after adopting an open-door policy. Now, as the refugees came into Germany, there was a spike in crime, there was rioting, and we see right now that with her new coalition, they're going to implement other rules where they're still going to be bringing in these refugees, but they're going to cap it. Well, this is what they're saying. They're going to be capping it at 200,000 people a year. And what did they see happen during this period of time? They see that this open-door policy, there was about 142,000 crimes during the first 6 months of 2016, including several high-profile sexual assaults during all of this. And the country kind of ignored it because they didn't want to recognize that this was a problem. And we understand, and we talked about the refugee crisis in depth in other reports, where this was all planned. Because you have to remember, the globalist plan was to make all the countries look the same. Remember, they were passing the TTIP, the TPP, and the globalist plan in the end was to have a one world government, and they wanted to blend all the countries into one, and this is why they were pushing their agenda. This is why they were releasing the refugees from Turkey and other areas, and of course the only reason we had refugees is because the Cabal was in these areas creating war, but they were trying to blend everything, so when they took full control, the identity of each country would have been lost. And people revolted against this. This is not what people wanted. But they didn't care what people wanted. They were pushing their agenda. Now, out in North Korea, we can see that the Cabal, they still want some type of war out there. U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis says the military should be ready to provide all options to the White House in dealing with North Korea. He's saying that the armed forces, they are ready to go. Now, of course, they're saying this. There's a lot of words that are coming out here. But again, why would we invade? They haven't attacked the United States at all. I mean, think about it. Why would we need to go in there? There is absolutely no reason. I mean, the only reason to go in there, and they're going to try to create a reason to go in there with some type of an event, like it looks like they did attack us, because look what happened in Libya. Look what happened in Iraq. They use weapons of mass destruction. They use these fake propaganda tools to get us into these countries because they want regime change. That's what they want in North Korea. Regime change, period. They want to take control of the country. And we see that, once again, the Cabal, they're going to try to have some type of an event where they bring us to war. Now, are they going to be able to do this? At this point, I don't know. I don't think so. It looks like behind all of this, behind all the propaganda that's coming out, we have Tillerson, we have the EU, we have Russia, we have China, all talking to North Korea, trying to work out some type of peace deal. Even the president of South Korea is involved in this. We see NATO is out there, and this is Stoltenberg. He's out there saying, listen, NATO should get involved in Libya because Russia now is working with the different tribes in Libya, the different factions, and we don't want the same thing happening in Syria. Now, what they're really saying is that Russia is trying to formulate and create peace in Libya and get rid of the Islamic State, which basically they're not really there that much anymore. They're being wiped out left and right. They don't want this to happen, and Stoltenberg is saying that NATO should get involved in this situation. Now, again, we have Trump who's saying that we are not doing anything with Libya. We still have the Cabal that still wants Libya. They don't want to lose all the different countries where they had regime change because, again, they still think, and in their heads, they still believe that they're going to be able to have this one world government. This is just a minor setback, and they're still pushing for it. They haven't given up. We see the Islamic State, they are collapsing in Syria and Iraq, and it is accelerating right now. They are losing swaths of land right now. There's nothing that can stop this. Russia and Syria, the Iraqi forces, they are removing the paid mercenaries from all over the place. We see that more than 1,000 fled their crumbling Iraqi stronghold. They're fleeing Syria, and they're not even looking back. They're just running. Now, something very, very interesting happened, and this is where the Cabal hits the brick wall. Now, during Obama's term, where they were trying to set up the Kurds, and they were trying to separate Syria, Iraq, and they're still trying to do this. They had the referendum, the independence referendum, and, they're saying, yes, we voted to separate ourselves from Syria and Iraq and set up our own Kurd territory. We know back then, during the Obama administration in July of 2016, the United States agreed to pay salaries to 36,000 Kurdish fighters. And of course they said, well, we're paying them to battle the Islamic State. But we know today, and we knew back then, that the Islamic State was created and paid for by the United States and the coalition forces. And the Kurds were being paid by the United States and the coalition forces. And they weren't really fighting the Islamic State. They were paying them because they were creating an army. Because they needed an army when they separated these pieces of land. This is why they created the bases. This is why the United States forces were there to protect this area. What is happening right now is Trump is saying we are not paying these salaries. It has come to an end, and we are not renewing it. So all these military soldiers in the Kurd areas, they are no longer getting paid by the United States. Now, the intelligence agencies, they might be doing this covertly, but out in front, they are no longer getting paid. Secondly, the Trump administration said they will not recognize last month's non-binding referendum that the Kurds held. They've taken Baghdad's side in the dispute and refused to recognize the results. So this means that the Kurds, at this point, unless something happens, will not be declaring independence. Russia's against it, China's against it, Syria's against it. The people of these countries are against it. The only people that were for it were the Cabal and the 36,000 people they were paying. Now they're not getting paid. We have a completely different story. So it looks like the Cabal has hit a brick wall. What are they going to do next? Because it looks like they're losing the Middle East, and every day that passes, it's getting worse and worse for them. North Korea, they haven't gotten the war they wanted. It's getting worse and worse as time goes on. Now, something very interesting happened. The drone program of the United States, the U.S. Reaper and Predator drones, they have a major problem. Now, they're saying there is a virus in these systems, and the virus is recording the keystrokes and recording what is going on. Now, this virus was discovered, and of course, Kaspersky's being blamed for this. They're saying, see, they got into our systems, they're recording what we're doing. But I really believe that this is the intelligence agencies, where they wanted to always have control of these systems. Now, what they've done, they tried to wipe out the virus. And every time they do, the virus comes right back. So it must be hard-coded into the chips or something. It's not, I don't think it's just software-based. I think it's hard-coded, and this is why they can't wipe it out. Because it's probably some type of backdoor system buried beneath anything that they know of. And once the system's rebooted, and maybe it's wiped out and rebooted back up, the whole system, the virus all of a sudden comes back. And we see right now that maybe the intelligence agencies were using this to control what was going on, monitor what was going on, and maybe one day take control of the drones if needed to create maybe some type of false flag or something like that. But this is very interesting that this is happening. Now, of course, what they're doing is they're turning around and saying this must be Russia. Of course, this is what they do. I wouldn't be surprised if they even say it was North Korea, but I think Russia, they're trying to blame this on Russia, Kaspersky, and this is what Kaspersky's doing. They're infiltrating the drone systems. But once again, we know that the NSA, the intelligence agencies, they created through Vault 7 all of these different malwares and viruses that are not just software-based, but they're hard-coded into the system because the manufacturers got instructions from them to plant these things in there for, of course, national security. Now, this, again, might be used for something in the future, and they've been trying to get rid of it, and they cannot get rid of it whatsoever. They don't know who created the virus, and again, the virus, they can't get rid of it. They can't clean the systems, and they can't operate the drones without the virus present. So, again, we're on the lookout to see if something does happen. Something might happen. They might blame, maybe they were planning on saying that Russia took control of the drones and the drones turned around and fired on the American soldiers or anything like that. But we see right now that everything that the Cabal has been doing over the many, many years, a lot of it is coming out now. A lot of people are recognizing it. A lot of people are starting to realize what's going on here. And again, they have no other place to go except to have this next event. And this is what we are looking for. We're looking for signs of this. We're looking for them to do something. And we've been tracking this. And I believe that we're coming to the point where their backs are against the wall and they're going to have no choice but to have an event, because otherwise their time is coming to an end. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.